New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hello and welcome to Global Focus Today. My name is Reverend Sharri Johnson. I am your host for this wonderful interview show. We have a delightful guest today. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about him because he's going to tell you more about him and I don't want to steal his thunder. But I got to tell you, he's one of my favorite people because he makes me smile just saying his name. There's just something about him that delights the heart. His name is Reverend Bobby Kyser. He is a joyful and motivative leader, awakening others to their dreams and potential by inspiring sacred service, guiding spiritual exploration, and inviting loving self-discovery. And that's just words. He shows people who they are and helps them discover how they can be more of who they are. He has a very unusual ministry. Well, I know focus ministers are by definition unique, but Reverend Bobby is doing something that I think is just remarkable. There are a lot of focus ministers who minister to ministers. You've seen many of them on this show. I'm even one of them. But his ministry to ministers is really a ministry to ministries, because what he does is show people how to do the work they were born to do and not go broke. He shows them how to bring the prosperity that they teach to the people in their congregations into the ministry itself. And I think that is just absolutely wonderful. So please help me welcome Dr. Bobby Kyser, who's going to tell us all about him and who he does, what he does.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me here. I'm just so honored. My heart is so filled with joy and love right now. So Reverend Sharri, thank you for having me be a part of your show today.
Oh, I'm just tickled pink that you said yes.
Oh, thank you.
You are. Tell us where you came from. Tell us how you got here.
Yes. Well, I am from, you'll probably hear it in my voice, Louisville, Kentucky. So I'm a little Southern boy and grew up there all my life and had a beautiful background in raising in the depths of Southern Baptist. And so I was raised in a very interesting Christianity lifestyle growing up. And as a gay man who was dealing with a lot of challenges in that time, it was quite an interesting time for me. So, when I finally came out and wanted to be the truth of who I was, I decided I need to leave Louisville. So I moved to fabulous Fort Lauderdale, where I decided to sow a few oats and have some fun. And Fort Lauderdale was just an incredible time for me, where I was able to find the beautiful church Unity. And it was there that I got my call to ministry, and then ultimately moved to Kansas City at Unity Village, and was there for my seminary, and then did that for 3 years. Then a couple years later, became the vice president of hospitality there, and then ultimately moved back home to be with my parents in their final years. So it's been quite a little journey around the country, finding myself kind of right back to my original roots, the truth of who I am, which is truly just to be in that Southern loving charm that I love so much.
Well, that's wonderful. And I could listen to you all day, that accent. I've lived in 37 states, and North Carolina, Kentucky's not one of them, but North Carolina was, and that's, close. But you could take that accent and spread it on biscuits and eat it like honey. I mean, everybody loves listening to you, and they smile just as soon as they hear your voice.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
I want to know what brought you from a little Southern Baptist boy in Kentucky to a Unity minister in Kansas City. How did you go from Southern Baptist to New Thought?
Yeah, well, it's so interesting. Wow, as a gay person growing up in Kentucky, I was challenged always by the Bible and, kind of damned to hell and all of that through the religion that my family that I loved and supported. And so that was kind of part of me, I think, leaving to go to Fort Lauderdale to get myself out of, that kind of consciousness that was not anything that I needed to be near. It was not acceptable for me. So I was able to find Unity, and Unity offered me something that was so different from, that I could be who I was, and I was loved and I was accepted and honored by being just showing up the truth of who I felt that I was inside. And, the first time I walked into Unity at Fort Lauderdale, I'll just never forget the music, the sound. I knew I was at home. I knew there was something deeper. And it's kind of interesting because someone had asked me not too long ago, what was my call to ministry? Why haven't you done a church? You've been a minister now since 2018. Why do you not have a church? And, I don't really think my call to ministry was probably like a lot of the other ministers. It wasn't, okay, I'm going to go out and lead a church and, get up on the platform and do pastoral care. I think the truth was I wanted to know that I wasn't going to go to some place called hell. I had always been told that this is where I was going to go if I led this lifestyle. So how is it that I can believe Unity and know this? And so I truly believe I went into the seminary wanting to know this answer. Okay, not really to truly be a minister, but to know and to study and research and understand, why is it that you believe that I'm okay as a human being? Why is my lifestyle okay? And so that's really what my calling was in the beginning. And then, of course, once I was in the seminary for a year and a half, I knew that there was a whole different world out there for me. I had discovered at that point the truth of who I was, that I was perfectly acceptable and whole just as I was.
I think the most important thing I learned at Unity, and I learned a whole lot of really important things at Unity, but the most important thing I learned at Unity is that sin is self-inflicted nonsense.
Isn't that the truth? Amen to that.
and the term lifestyle. A lot of people use that term and they think they're being inoffensive.
Yes.
But lifestyle implies choice.
Yes, it does.
And sexual orientation is not a choice.
It is absolutely not a choice. You are so on it.
It's like freckles. Nobody went out and said, oh, please, God, could I have freckles? But don't let them get close enough together to look like a suntan. No.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Trust me. I prayed and prayed and prayed. I did everything you could do to try to not be who I am. And the joy and the beauty was, once I was able to learn the teachings of Unity and understand New Thought teachings and know the truth is that, all those are beliefs that were brought from years and years in the past, not the reality.
Every prejudice is left over from a long time ago, except for the one we created today.
I know, right?
There are people who are prejudiced against those little fidgety things that kids have, the spinners.
Yes.
I really don't like them because you can ruin your thumbs. But the point is that most of our prejudices are not choices. They are inherited from society, from family, from education, from all over the place. And so We have to do whatever we can to liberate ourselves.
We do.
That's what New Thought is all about, is liberating
It is.
from miscommunication with the past.
Yes, it is. And Kentucky it's just kind of like it's a nest, a web of beliefs. And so that's why I feel so grateful that I'm back in Kentucky to be able to, share that New Thought good news, so to speak.
I mean, that would, Catholics talk about how wonderful it is to work in Rome. And I'm thinking, well, who are you going to discuss anything with there?
Right.
For me, when I was in Arkansas, people said, why on earth are you in Arkansas? And I said, because this is where I'm needed.
Yeah. It's a calling. Truly.
Kentucky is where you're needed. And when it's not where you're needed anymore, you'll find yourself not there. I've discovered that's true too.
I've not been there, so I'm dying to come there. So just hold that on we're going to hold that on intention.
But I want you to tell us about what your ministry is and what it does. But I also want you to tell us the story of how you got from, oh my God, I'm okay, to I can make a difference in ministries.
Yeah.
Big step.
So we'll start with that second one. Yeah, we'll start with that second one. When I got out to Unity Village and got through, I was very blessed to be one of the last classes that was an on-site residential class. And I'll remember I was a friend with Reverend Dr. Paul Hasselback, and I asked him, I said, I think I want to come out there and be a minister. What do you think? And he said, well, you better get your butt out here quick because we're shutting it down. And I said, you can't shut it down. I'm coming. So within about 6 weeks, I put my business up for sale. I sold my fourplex in Wilton Manors. I literally got everything together, and I was able to grab 1 year of on-site residence at Unity Village. And that year was so powerful for me, mainly because I was willing to give everything up. And that's something I had never done before in my life. It was always give me more, accomplish more, work, Enneagram 3, performer, achiever, need more. And so it was the first time in my life I let things go and just released and said, okay, universe, God, power, source, here I am, take me on whatever journey I'm supposed to be on. And so that year was so powerful for me, not for what I gained, but also what I released. And then after that year, I decided to stay there. I said, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to leave this because this feels good to me. And it was at that time that that the CEO came to me. I was just about to finish school and asked me, he said, I heard that you have a hospitality background. And I said, well, I kind of do, many years of that. And he said, well, we're looking for someone to be the vice president of hospitality here, to run our bookstore, our hotel, our weddings, retreats, food services, and everything. And I said, well, I have a lot of that experience, but, I'm going to be a minister. At this point, I was, thought I was going to do a church. And so, over a few weeks, I really prayed about it and kind of meditated on that. And it just hit me all of a sudden. Wow, this is an opportunity not to go out to necessarily just a church. And I don't want to say it just a church, but I have an opportunity to work at a headquarters, a world headquarters, where I've got thousands of people coming, 450 events a year coming to this amazing central, sacred space, that I can be a help and serve mentality, that I can use this platform, this place, to use my talents and my gifts to really show up and really greet people with a way that maybe there hasn't been ever before. And so we started the process, and it took about 2 months. About that time, I was finishing my seminary experience, and I just rolled right into the vice president of hospitality there. And it was probably, that was the shift in my life that opened more doors than anything. It was at that point that I knew that I had to let go and just let spirit be the guide. It was at that point.
And you're not talking about doors and walls, are you?
I'm talking doors and walls, and we're talking everything. I mean, everything opened and shifted. And, that place is such a sacred place, but it had struggled for years and years and years with people who wanted to do hospitality. And I think this happens a lot with even our churches, but they had people that really didn't understand the dynamics of business. And I was so blessed to own an all-state agency for almost 20 years. I ran very successful agencies with in the millions of dollars of premium, multiple employees. So when they asked me this, after being in Fort Lauderdale and owning a wedding and event company and working with major hotels, it seemed like, wow, all my gifts that God has blessed me with is coming together in one central location. And now I get to share that with Unity. And so yeah.
I have to tell you, a phrase that I used over and over and over again in ministerial school is what you just said. Life for a minister, life is on the job training.
It is. It so is.
It is. God took you to a place where there was a Bobby-shaped hole.
It was. I mean, it was.
Absolutely. And you did, by the way, just in case there's anybody here who doesn't know, a truly fabulous job.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You know what? I didn't even realize what I was doing when I was doing it. It was almost 2 years, and things just would happen. And I mean, I would get these. I kind of had an overdeveloped power of imagination while I was there, and one of the 12 powers of Unity. And honestly, I would walk outside and I would see something like Lowell's Garden. Have you been to Lowell's Garden before, next to the hotel? Well, that garden had just sat there for decades and not been touched. And I could see sacred services being done there. I could see weddings and retreats and events. And I would grab that and say, okay, let's change that garden. Let's bring that back to life. And somehow I'd be out there doing things, planning. And here come Lowell Fillmore's great uncle, or it was his great nephew, walked over and said, "What are you doing to Lowell's Garden?" I said, "We're going to redo it. We're going to use it. We're bringing it back to life." He said, "Well, I think I'd like to pay for this." And within 3 weeks, he sent us a big, nice check and paid for the entire garden. And that was the type of spirit-led things that were happening there. It was just an incredible 2 years. It was such a gift to be there and get to. And you've been there, so we remodeled everything, ballrooms, and we redid half the property.
They're still remodeling stuff.
They are. That legacy is still carrying on throughout. It's so beautiful.
Well, and Ernest Holmes said it, but the Fillmores knew it too, and that is that you have to remain open at the top.
You do. Oh, that's so true.
Growth is not an option.
No, you've got to. That's the key. And I think that's where a lot of churches suffer in what's going on right now. And, we've been stuck in our sacred, our cows that keep us in a hole. And sometimes, yeah.
Well, there's a question I ask all of my guests, and I usually ask it at the end, but I'm going to ask it now because I think it's the perfect entree to talking about your personal ministry. And that is, how does your ministry support, enhance, contribute to, pick your own verb, conscious evolution?
Yeah. So I think that our message at Unity is so powerful. I think of how it transformed me and how it's transformed so many people from all religions and everywhere. And so it really makes my heart sad when I see these churches getting smaller and smaller and smaller and going away. And I look at the numbers and it really scares me, because I believe a lot of it comes not that people are not necessarily wanting to be spiritual. I think there's a lot of people that's been through religion that maybe has led them in a path that it doesn't resonate with them now. So in my heart, I said, what is it that I can do with my experience from Unity Village and converting and manifesting? What can I do? And I was very blessed in that Reverend Myra McFadden, who is one of the Myrtle Fillmore recipients a couple of years ago, she came to me and she said, we have an amazing church and our numbers are getting less, our finances are getting tougher, and we want to figure out a way. What is it? What type of model, Bobby, could we come up with that is maybe similar to what you did at Unity Village? And so we created a model that I'm so proud of. It was just it was literally, it just came, it birthed itself in a matter of days after she asked me that question. And it's called Rise Up. Rise Up, RISEUP, revenue and income streaming using property. So we're working on is a 7-phase process there at that church. We're in phase 5, going there back to Kansas City in a few weeks. But basically what happens is we are using sacred services, bringing them to the church, elevating their property, doing a lot of the congregants have donated money. They've come in and done service work. We volunteered. It's truly bringing the church together in a way we never dreamed would happen by creating this business model, this program, Rise Up. And so basically what happens is we're going into each part of the church and we're converting it into usable space that can be used for weddings or retreats or anniversaries that basically support not only sacred services, which we want to do more of in our churches, but community services, social services, bringing in, AA groups, bringing anything that we feel like anybody that we can bring into this church that we can start creating partnerships with, not only the organizations and the events, but the people. So how is it that our volunteers, when we get 150 people in the church, what do we do to connect with them? Do we put bookmarks on the windshield wipers? Do we do a little message about that? Not only are these things bringing in income, but it's bringing people to the church property. And that's what we're so excited about. Immediately, they already started booking. We already have booked a wellness fair that we're going to be doing in May. So we're bringing all these vendors and booths into. They had a very unique situation in that they had a baseball field, and we basically have had $27,000 worth of concrete brought in, and we've created sidewalks and circles, and we're doing fountains and gardens and an altar area, and we're turning this entire baseball field into a community area that people from all over Kansas City North. And the interesting thing is almost all churches have parking already. They have spaces that are not being utilized, but a few hours a week. Most of them have grounds that they can create a ceremony area or a sacred service area. And so what I'm finding is, and this is not the first church, this is the first full model we've done, but I've done this in churches in Fort Lauderdale, in Wichita. This is not the first area. I'm working on a couple other churches, but the idea is to bring life. Just bring life into these churches by creating an intentional model.
And you know what I hear you saying, Bobby, is what you're doing is you're showing people how to make spirituality be a 24/7, 365 part of their lives instead of Sunday morning and Wednesday evening.
That's exactly. You said that. I love that. Thank you for saying that. That summed it up. Truthfully, it's immersing yourself into that. When you think about Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, and I love using them as my perfect example. You have this real estate mogul who was incredible. He knew what he was doing with real estate and owned property all over, knew how to purchase it, sell it, everything. Then you had this beautiful wife of his, Myrtle, co-founder, who had faith. She had that little seed.
Oh, Myrtle didn't have faith, Bobby. Myrtle was faith.
Oh, is it not incredible that she had so much faith that she overcome this illness? And so when Reverend Myra called me again, she's the winner of the Myrtle Fillmore Award of Faith, right? Because she went through a cancer situation and pulled herself through this in a light. And then myself, who has all of the real estate background, I've managed real estate property all my life, and so to bring those two same dynamics together, I said, I think we've got something here, Myra, Reverend Myra. We've got something that's very similar to Charles and Myrtle. And if we can show these churches how to use the tools that are available, I think we can do great things out into the whole entire world with this.
I think what you're doing is you are transforming the concept of outreach.
Transforming the concept of outreach.
Because the little center I go to, CSL Kansas City, they have several outreach things. I'm their representative with the Greater Kansas City Interfaith Council, but they have a partnership with an organization called Free Hot Soup. And on Sunday of every month, there's a team of us who, instead of going to service, we go to the kitchen and we cook, and we cook, and we cook, and we cook. And then we load it all into 2 cars, and we haul it downtown to a park across the street from the federal office courthouse, where there's a big park, and there are a couple of other churches that participate too. And we set up a buffet line and we feed the homeless.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I love that.
And that is sort of traditional volunteerism.
Yes. Yes.
What you're talking about is kind of inverting the volunteerism, where the folks at the church don't go out and take service to other people. They give the other people a reason to come here and be served.
Exactly. Yes. Yes, that's it. That's it. And interestingly enough, some of the volunteers, we've set this program up to where there's not to be weight on the church, because that was one of the things that Reverend Myra was so concerned about. We don't want this to become the consciousness of the church. It reminds me of, I don't know if you've ever heard of Out of the Closet, but Out of the Closet is a consignment shop, but that is funded for AHF, which is AIDS Healthcare Foundation. And basically what they did is they said, we're going to start an income producing stream to help support, so we can give treatment to AIDS patients. And so it's the same type dynamic, only the church already has the property. We don't have to go out and rent spaces and do all that. The idea is to bring it in. And yes, we want the people from the church, if they feel called, to volunteer. But a lot of these outdoor things will actually create income for people of the church. So if they want to hire some of our church congregants to help them serve or do things, it also creates an income stream for our congregants. And that's what I really love about it, is it's creating all these different things. Our director, who will be running this, is all commission based. So there's no employee status, nothing employee wise that's going to be from the church. So unless they book an event, there's no money that goes out to pay this person. So it's a really neat model that is totally based on sales of these sacred services. So, and that's what I love about it. It's not going to weigh down the church where it's at now. It's just to elevate it up.
I love the idea that part of the model is to, I presume you have some kind of a directory that the folks who are coming to rent the space can say, we need people to do blah, blah. Oh, no, we just have, they have a list here, you know, and folks in your congregation can benefit from that same opportunity. And it's ideal for people who are retired or have big families and need a second way to bring money. I mean, or kids who are home from college, or, you know.
I created this at Unity Village.
I love that.
Yeah, I created the original program at Unity Village for the headquarters, and it's called Freelance Friends. And we were having such a difficult time finding people to come in and help us, because we were doing 450 events at Unity Village a year. And what would happen is, as the labor market got really tight, we were like, how can we shift this? What can we do? And we started thinking about the prayer associates who could use extra money, employees who maybe wanted to work on the weekend and make. So I created this program through the HR there with Kim Ames called Freelance Friends. And so I'm carrying the same program out into this, so that if someone comes there, they say, we need 2 or 3 people to help set up and break down the event. We say, hey, we've got freelance friends here that you can hire separately. You do them separately. And trust me, that it'll be just like Unity Village. There'll be a list of those. They're still doing that 3 years later at Unity Village. The program is really a hot program.
Unity doesn't let go of something unless it turns out not to work.
Exactly. Exactly.
They've been around a while now.
They have just a couple years.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you another question. This
Sure.
is another one that I ask everybody. I want you to visualize what your ministry would look like if every single thing went exactly the way you want it to go 10 years from now.
Wow. I think at that point, my ministry, I'm going to be like Martha Creek. I'm going to say that my ministry would be to serve ministries and help them and see them as successful, not only from a place of help and serve mentality into the communities and their congregants, but also to be successful from a place. A lot of times churches are constantly constantly having to draw from their congregants. We need more money, we need more this, we need volunteers. So shift that around. And my ministry would be to show them how to be the help and serve, to go out into the world, to not, because you're going to have that financial and that income stream and that volunteer stream. These people are going to want to go out and serve the community and do things for others, just like what you were talking about, cooking for out into the community, doing things that go out. So that would be my ministry, is to be able to maybe oversee and help churches. I do want to do a church. I'm not going to lie. I've not done one. And a church approached me a few weeks ago and asked me about in my hometown and said, would you be interested in being a senior part-time minister? And the next morning I woke up and all I could hear is it's time. It's time. So, my parents are in their 90s, or my dad is, and my mom is nearing that. And I want to be here for their golden years for a few years, so I'm trying to enjoy that. But I think I would first be in a church because I want to experience it. I want to know what that's like. I think for me to go out and serve ministers of a church, I need to understand what that dynamic is. So my dream would be for the next 24 months to do that, maybe a little longer. And then I'll go out and serve others and help their ministries grow.
Oh, you couldn't pick a better model than Martha Creek.
I know. It's the best.
Martha Creek.
That's the best model in the world.
Okay, so another question that I ask everybody is, how does your ministry, and this is my number one priority in the world, how does your ministry support, enhance, create, generate, pick your verb, world peace?
I think my ministry creates that through the teachings of unity that I'm able to share with others. And that may not be a mass of people right now. That's a small group. I believe world peace comes one person at a time. One person makes a shift. One person being peaceful or going out and sharing and being peace into the world. And when I came back to Louisville, my family was in such a disarray with elder abuse, with drug abuse. There's no words to say how bad it was when I got back. And so I said, what is it that I can do? What is it that I can do to help my family shift? I don't want this to be the last memories of my family. And it came from me learning to be peaceful with myself. Because once I learned to become peaceful with myself, then that peaceful vibe, that consciousness resonates out into the world. And my family felt that. They knew, they could see the shift in me. And that shift in me, I believe, has created a whole peaceful presence around me. I have a very dear friend who truly believes that it's normal for there to be fighting within relationships. And I can't see that. And so one of my goals has been the people around me in my immediate circle is for them to see that peace is a normal state, not conflict and fighting. So I believe one peaceful seed at a time that I fertilize and water and cultivate, I believe that same seed is going to spread out into the world. And it may not be a Joel Osteen level, but if I make it even in my community or in my state, I think that's the power of peace.
Oh, you have just described so perfectly my favorite poem by Lao Tzu. It's
Uh-oh.
called If There Is to Be Peace. He said, if there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace among nations.
Mm.
Nations, there must be peace between the cities. If there is to be peace in the cities, there must be peace in the neighborhoods. If there is to be peace in the neighborhoods, there must be peace in the home. If there is to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing. What
Oh,
a beautiful poem.
okay, I got one more question that I always ask everybody.
Okay.
Hold on just a second while I get ready. Because the next question is, will you come back?
I would love to come back. Thank you
I'm
so
my
much.
calendar right now.
Okay.
Next opening we have is on September the 19th. Can I pencil you in?
Yeah, I am. You can pencil me in, and actually you can Sharpie me in.
Oh, wonderful. I can't wait to find out what wonderful things have happened between
Yeah, because by then we'll have all this stuff in place, and it's going to be fun to follow up.
And so, folks, for next week, don't forget to show up because we got two guests instead of one. We have Reverend Jeannie Southerns and Michelle Davis, religious science practitioner, who are the co-leaders of Begin Within Ministries. Don't you love that name? Begin Within. So don't miss it because we'll be here. Have a wonderful week until then. Bye-bye.
Amazing, amazing, you will do amazing things. Amazing, amazing, you will do